let's start by identifying, if you would, what would you say is unintentional living?
Yeah, I mean, unintentional living is what most people are doing. They're not putting intention, and a lot of times I reverse engineer what makes someone unintentional. A lot of times, we're not leaning into what we truly want. A lot of times we're letting fear of what other people think of us. And we're just, as Napoleon Hill would say, we're just drifters. And we know lots of people that just don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to put their name behind something. They just kind of want to drift and do their thing. And who am I to say like that's a terrible way to live? But I think the ultimate what is wealth for me,
Mm-hmm.
wealth is being living a truly intentional life, living life being around people that you want, like really leaning into health, utilizing your time and talents and relationships and really sowing into the things that matter. As a believer, that doesn't just look like on time on this earth. It doesn't just look like the next 300 years in our family legacy. It looks like the things that we're doing today, I believe, have ultimate effects on eternity.
Yeah.
And if you truly believe that, intentional living for me means that all of my inputs, all the things that I'm doing today with my money, my time, the relationships, my skill sets, needs to be needs to be put towards things that truly matter for me, eternity. And so that's intentional living versus unintentional, meaning like you're just not living a purposeful life because you're not actually, you don't, your intent, you're not living life with an intention. You're just kind of going through. And unfortunately, it's very easy to look anywhere and just see like, wow, this person does not have a vision for their life. And um, as a result, they're living a pretty miserable life.
Got it. So it sounds like, you're not just talking to folks about money and finances, but you're also talking about their mind state, or really just what their priorities are, and helping them to really identify a path and a way of living that is more holistic and overall
Yep.
fulfilling. Um,
Yep.
so I know that you have a few branches or services or different companies, right? You have the and asset, right? And we'll talk about that. And then there's Better Wealth. You have your tax services company, and then your coaching company. So
Mhm.
between those four things, which one would you say you love to like really kind of get in there with the client
Well,
and
yeah, I
battleground?
mean, we can talk overall about better wealth and our coaching, and I think you ask about like holistically, it's like, do people have a debt issue,
Mm-hmm.
or is debt the symptom that shows a heart? It's like a lot of times when I look at if bad debt is not usually because of debt, it's usually the debt enabling the decision of the heart, or there's something deeper to that. And so I use that translates into almost anything: investing, how you use your time, where you decide to and how you invest. A lot of it is you can reverse engineer it back to who you are at the core. And so just sharing that big picture, that's what's it's cool to see the ripple effects. And so I would say we all start, and we could start with the better wealth side of the business, because I believe regardless of who you are, you could literally be 10 years old watching this, you could be 70-year-olds watching this, and I think the things that I'm saying could apply to your life. It's asking yourself the question, what do you truly want, and
Mm-hmm.
why do you want it? Why do you want what you want? And it's like, and if you ask that yourself that 5 times deep, it's like, why do you want this, why do you want this? You'll start getting clear about like what that is. The cheat code is, where does your identity come in? And like, if you can start realizing where your identity comes in as a human, you start realizing your deeper why. And then from that becomes the basis of what you should be spending your time and money and your talents around. And that
Right.
I see wealth as a sum total of your talents, of your money, of your time, of your health, of your relationships. And once you get clear about what you truly want, then efficiency says remove any friction to get there. And so for us, I can summarize our better wealth coaching side of the business of get really clear on where you want, and that's a constant journey. And then let's make sure that everything else in your life is best reflecting that intentional life. I do not like retirement. I don't think retirement's biblical. I don't think retirement is truly the North Star that's inspiring. It's like,
Yeah.
why in the world would you want to be taken out of service?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really beautiful thing to be like, what does intentional living look like? And can I start living intentionally as fast as possible? which
Hmm.
means we need to remove any friction to get there. And when you look at someone's financial life, you see a ton of friction.
Yeah.
And so I know I'm saying a lot, but at the end of the day, that's really our philosophy on all of our businesses.
Yeah.
But it really starts holistically from Better Wealth and what we do just from a standpoint of coaching.
Yeah, it sounds exactly like what I talk about, which you're using the word living intentionally, or living intentional living, and I say living on purpose. You know,
It's great.
it's really the same thing. What is your purpose? What have you been designed to do? What are your gifts, talents, and treasures that you bring to the world? And are you
It's great.
living on purpose, or are you
Yep.
just floating, going with the flow just to get by, right? And
Yep. Right.
and yes, that's a great place to start. I agree with you, with everybody, with every client or every person, on a personal and business level. So would you say most of your clients are individuals, like employed workers, or are they entrepreneurs? If you were to kind of divvy it up, who do you talk to more?
Yeah, I would say that we look through the lens of entrepreneurial just because I believe like the valuepreneur concept of like create value. And so
Mm,
there's value creators all over, but typically when you think of a value creator, you think of someone who's has some type of upside. And that upside could come in owning a business. It could come in just being in a position where you get upside and you get paid and compensated for the value that you bring.
yeah.
And so I like to think that you know you want to be at least entrepreneurial minded, which you could shift and say valuepreneur minded. And that really is the mindset. That's who we like to serve. And the cool thing is there's a lot that you can do because if you create tons of value, there's usually a lot of levers that you can pull to help you be more efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. Cool. So okay. So now we talked about better wealth and coaching, and so ultimately, where would you say like the destination is that your clients, or where you want to lead clients to, that clarity and perspective, and
Yep.
then ultimately helping them to, um, I guess, position or put their finances and their lifestyle in a
Yep.
position that's um, most efficient, right? What would
Yep.
that end destination? I wouldn't say
Yeah, I
end
mean, the
destination, or just the journey. Where would it kind of end up on the journey? Where
Yeah, I
would
mean,
it
you
be?
have to measure efficiency has to have a measurement, otherwise we're just talking about fluff, and the measurement is in cash flow. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, cash flow is the thing that we can measure, and it's like, do you have enough cash flow coming in? Do you have enough confidence in future cash flow coming in to finance or, you know, survive or pay for your intentional life? So
Mm-hmm.
what's neat about this is some people that work with us have a very, very big freaking goal when it comes to what they're working towards. That might mean millions of dollars a month to get to the type of life that they want to live. They may not be there. They may just be on their journey, but like for them, that's their north star. For some people, it might be the exact opposite. It might be like, you know what? I'm going to stop striving and I need X amount of cash flow. Obviously we need to factor in inflation, but I need X amount of cash flow to truly live the intentional life. And this is all factoring in generosity and all those things into that equation. And so cash flow really makes the world go round. Cash flow is the metric that we look to. And then from there is like, okay, how do the decisions that you make, how does it affect your current and future cash flow? And ultimately the goal is to have enough cash flow coming in to finance your intentional life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even get into the passive versus non-passive because I believe that there's some people that the last thing that they should be striving for is a fully passive income. I mean, that could work for you, but like some people are not called to be just totally, cash out. I also believe that freedom and optionality creates a like I would love to have cash flow coming in that's not related to me showing up every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's where the strategy comes in is like where does your cash flow come in? But make sure that your intentional living is not sacrificed. And some people need to like lean in and instead of going for passive income, they need to double their active income first and then start translating that. And so there's almost infinite ways that you can talk about this because it's everyone's a little bit different, but it's really strategizing from intentional living. But the financial metric that truly matters is cash flow. How do you finance that intentional life? And instead of retirement, it's future cash flow planning. And so it's not just today, but there's nothing that magically changes with retirement.
Right.
The thing that usually changes is a lot of your active income might stop,
Right.
but cash flow is the thing that still makes the thing move.
Right.
And so that's I'm not going to say that we came up with that because lots of people talk about that, but I definitely, from a clarity standpoint, it's very simple.
Yeah. Very simple. Awesome. So let's talk about the and asset. And
Yep.
I've never used that phrase on my channel as of yet of now. So I'll
Yep.
let you just what is the and asset?
Yeah, the and asset is a phrase to talk about whole life insurance that in a lot of cases a lot of people use like infinite banking or cash flow banking, or there's lots of different words for it, but the whole concept of the and asset is when it's set up and used properly, when you max fund a life insurance contract, it gives you a lot of options and uses for your dollar. So for example, when you overfund a life insurance policy, you have liquidity and use of that money. You don't have to wait till, 10, 15, 20 years to potentially utilize the living benefits of life insurance. You also get a death benefit and protection now and into the future. You also have many benefits for the future as it relates to cash flow. You also have lots of protection benefits. You also have the ability to use capital without killing all the benefits that you're going to get in life insurance long term. And then you could go on and on. And so those are just some examples of when set up and used properly, life insurance is not an investment. It's not an investment. I cringe every time people, pitch it as like a sexy investment, because it's not. And I think you're going to be frustrated or misled if that's the route that you go. But it's an amazing foundational asset that I look to as, instead of like saving long term in like a money market, I would rather put my money into a life insurance policy because of all the benefits it's going to give me for the next 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. As long as I live, it's that asset that's going to continue to give me benefits. And then when I do graduate from this world, it's going to create that ripple effect that's going to be even greater. And so that's the concept. I look at it as like an and the things that I'm really focused on investing, not investment advice, but I'm right now trying to invest in, myself, in my team, and looking at businesses. Those are the things that I know there's lots of people that love real estate. There's lots of people that like the market. There's lots of other people that choose other avenues. For me, I want to up level myself. I want to up level the people that I'm spending time with, and I want to up level the businesses that I'm involved in. And I believe those activities are going to continue to create the passive and active cash flow that will be able to be an alignment to my intentional life.
Very good. Very interesting. So the end asset, or a properly designed whole life insurance policy, um, and I use that word whole life insurance. So let's talk about that. Does it work with any type of insurance? I mean, I know the answers, but
Yeah.
can I do this with term insurance? Can I do this with, I've heard about index universal life insurance. I've heard about all these different things, and there's so many salespeople, pushing, like you said, the insurance as an investment strategy, and
Yeah.
using index universal life to do that. What is your take on all that?
Yeah. So when I talk about the and asset, I'm talking about overfunded whole life insurance. So term insurance is temporary insurance that doesn't really have a cash value component. And then there's other permanent life insurance policies that technically you could do this strategy with. I just look at it and say there's a lot more variables that I don't feel comfortable with, because I'm not pitching this as an investment. And so why in the world would I want to create more variability to something that's supposed to be safe and foundational?
Right.
So that's personally, there's people that will say, I mean, there's people that are crazy risky in what they want to do. I mean, you could technically say a crypto account that's margined could give you a paper asset that gives your dollars more than one job. And I would just look at that and say, okay, over the next 30 years, what's the chances of that? What's the chances of you having money?
Right.
Whereas when it comes to whole life insurance, it's a contract between you and an insurance company that, when structured properly, is incredible. And as a result, it's just really, 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 really powerful as it relates to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So now, you also have a separate side of your business, a separate company, which is your tax services company. And why did you even go there? I mean, obviously, it all ties into the financial solutions and coaching and support that you're providing. Um, but having a tax services company, how does that, benefit? Um,
Yeah.
because anybody could just go get a CPA or an accounting person, right? What is it that your
Mhm.
tax services company, what is it called, please, if you could tell
It's
us?
DARIBA because we want to make your life complicated, and so it's called DARIBA. That's what it's called, and the reason for taxes is like when you look at efficiency, you gotta look at everything. So it's like the reason I'm a big fan of life insurance is that when you look at that part of your financial model, I do believe it gives you more efficiency. The reason I value clarity is I believe that's great. The reason I value cash flow is I think we have to have an understanding of that. And when you look at cash flow, when money comes into your household economy, it only is capable of doing one of two things. It can be saved for the future,
Mm-hmm.
or it can be consumed and gone forever.
Right.
And consumption, the top 3 consumption items are taxes, lifestyle, and debt. And so when I look at this, yeah, I have a framework for debt, which we could talk about if you'd like. Lifestyle is simple as like track your money and ask the question, are you spending money on what you value? And like really audit that.
Mm-hmm.
But then taxes, I mean, majority of people are overpaying on taxes. And it's because we don't put an intention of that and we're not set up for success. So if I'm being honest, like our tax team is nothing like out of this world. Like there's nothing that we do like spectacular that other people don't do. What I find is majority of tax teams have a hard time communicating. A lot of times we're reactive instead of proactive. And a lot of times we're not even taking the time to properly document what's happening in the business. And so when you look at deductions, when you look at how your entity should be set up, when you look at just different credits and you look at things like depreciation and special strategies, all of that is just like how can you be intentional as it relates to your financial life? And there's people that just need to change their entities, and just by changing an entity and like that can make a difference in your tax situation. There's some people that need to be like tr- documenting their spending and may be able to deduct things that they're not deducting because they don't have the system in place. So we just designed that because if we want to be ultimately the one-stop shop to help the valuepreneur, the person that's creating value, the value creator, we want to look at like, okay, a value creator, what are the friction points that a value creator hits up against?
Mm-hmm.
And taxes is up there. Knowing their numbers is up there. Lack of clarity is up there. Planning from a cash flow perspective is up there. Lack of accountability could be up there. And so what you should be seeing is we're trying to over time build the foundation to be able to help the value creator be able to keep creating value with as little friction as possible.
Awesome. Amazing. So, we're definitely going to be putting links in the description of the video for anyone who wants to get a consultation, and whether it's for coaching, whether it's for the end asset, or for tax support and services. So please, check out the description for any links. But I will take you up on what you offered, which is to talk about debt. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think I have a debt framework, and it's actually quite simple. It's step number 1 is we need to separate debt into 2 questions. Should you buy that thing? And then what's the best way to buy that thing? And so the question is, should you buy that car? Should you buy that house? Should you do X with your money? And it's really getting clear about that because a lot of times we combine debt with that decision, and it's easier to say be debt's evil. So anytime you use debt, it's bad. I just look at debt as just an instrument, and whether you use cash or whether you use a debt instrument, I would say it's the same thing because our dollar bills, our Federal Reserve notes, and are a form of debt because when you go off the gold standard, it's backed by debt. It's backed by the Federal Reserve. So all that to say, it's like I just don't get emotional about debt, and I ask the question, should we buy that thing? And then if the answer is yes, then it's what's the most efficient way? I'm I'm not original, like I'm not making this stuff up. I'm very principled in how I go about this. It's like what's the most efficient way to purchase that thing? And it comes down to really three questions. Is this going to affect my net worth? Is this going to affect my cash flow? Is this going to affect my risk? Every decision we make has an effect on net worth, cash flow, and risk. And those are the 3 questions that I bring to the table. If I'm going to buy this car, then the next question is look at my situation and say, what is the most efficient way to purchase this? And I'm really trying to answer three questions: is if I use cash, how is that going to affect my net worth, cash flow, and risk? And if I use, a credit card, how is that going to affect? If I use a credit, a credit union, if I use a life insurance policy, what are all the scenarios as it relates to how I apply that? And that's really how we go about it. And if people have bad debt, then there's strategies on the best ways to knock that out intentionally. But I like to look at debt just like I look at investments and say you should have a portfolio, and you should be looking at your debt portfolio and saying, is this helping me, or is this creating friction? And a lot of people, and you probably see this all the time, are so emotional about it that they're not thinking through the lens of efficiency. They're not thinking through the cash flow to finance your intentional life. They're thinking about their goals to be debt free. And that's, I mean, that's awesome. Lots of people should have a goal to be debt free, but debt free might not equal living intentionally.
That's wisdom. So let's change the conversation a little bit, and let's just talk about the state of our planet Earth, the world that we live in. Right? It seems so dark. It seems like we're in the end times. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Economies all around the world are spiraling. The people are in desperate need of help, just financially, morally, emotionally, spiritually. Um, how do you see things as far as do you look at the where we are in this point in time as a point of gloom and despair, or are you optimistic about the future?
I I am optimistic because that's how I'm wired, and I believe that we're all created for a purpose. And it's interesting. The book that I'm reading right now has nothing to do with business. It has everything to do with like reading about persecuted Christians around the world that have literally are willing to die for what they believe in and then forgive the people that wrong them,
Mm,
and they're living for eternity. And so the way that I look at it is, yes, there's lots of problems, and you could point your finger probably at any sector and just say like, woe is me for, living in this. And I just have a different outcome, and I'm look at it and say, God, like you've created me, which is kind of a miracle if you think about the odds of being born. You're created. I believe you're created in the image of God, and I believe He's given you the greatest gift, which is time, and the ability to be in relationship with Him and others. And I think if you look through the lens of like, hey, the greatest thing that we can give is give of ourselves and serve. And it's like, how do we apply that to the world? And so to answer your question is, I look at it, and there's lots of quote unquote things that are outside of our control, and I try to focus on things I can control. And again, I'm trying to play a game that's going to last longer than Caleb. And I think it's because of those parameters that I choose to. I'm really excited. I think there's no greater time to be alive when you think about where we are in the world. And I also, if I'm being a realist, like there's a lot of problems and inflation. Where our governments are at. Are we going into World War III? I'm not going to say things that ban this channel. I'm sorry. But I just like, like, can I control World War III right now? Like, no. Would it be cool if I was so successful and it was loaded with money that I could actually potentially control some of those things?
right.
Maybe. But instead of my mental energy going and worrying, I'm going to be like, all right, what if let's create something to make a difference? Because currently, if you look at my little plot of land and where we're at, I it is what it is. And so that's kind of where my energy goes, is what control, focus on the things that you can control and the things that you can't, and be aware, because a lot of figure out how it relates back to you, but don't let politics and other things like drag you down, because I just feel like so many people are putting their life and their energy into things that are just energy and life sucking.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah, man. And I think that that a lot of that boils down to in terms of our individual ability to cope and to survive in times of turmoil. Whether it's personal experience, what we're
Yep.
going through, or just even if things seem to be pretty good for you as an individual, but maybe everywhere you look around you, you see turmoil. Is what you said
Yep.
is the relationship that you have
Yep.
with God.
And I just think this for perspective. It says in the Bible that we are all like grass. We are all going to fade away. Everything that we're working on, this YouTube channel, the business, all of it will fade away, and we will be forgotten about eventually on earth. But the thing that will last forever is the Word of God and
Yeah.
what that represents. And so again, it's like perspective. You could be on the top of the mountain, or you could be literally in the lowest of lows, and perspective helps us, I think, get closer to where we need to go.
Well said. And with that, I want to thank you for your time and your wisdom and just sharing about you and your business and your perspective. And I hope that this blesses those who have been watching and listening. And is there anything else that you'd like to, say or share with us before
Yep.
we stop our
No,
interview?
here to serve. Maybe in the comments below or in the description below, you can figure out ways to reach out. And I also have a YouTube channel, and so if you're on YouTube and you're a subscriber, and subscribe, engage with this channel, like it really, really helps us get the word out. And then if you're open to subscribing to another channel, give me a follow, and look forward to continuing to grow together with you, dude. And I just love what you're up to, and just excited to continue to co-create and help more people.
Thank you so much. Can you say those channels out loud for everybody?
Yeah. So better wealth is one of our channels, and then we have a channel just on the and asset, which is and asset. But you could check out better wealth and the and asset, and both channels are channels that we're up to, and there'll be more in the future as well.
Awesome. Well, God bless you, brother. And thank you again for your time.